And I want to throw it straight to John. I want to do our little, our expert out here. What do you got for me?
So I will start off with Philadelphia and Miami, and to call this a series would be a little bit of an overstatement. There was not much competitive baseball had here. This was Philly's series to lose coming in. They were obviously heavily favored over the Miami Marlins, but the Marlins did nothing to help themselves out here. This was a very disappointing series for them, but at this point, they kind of feel just like a bug on a windshield. The Phillies actually beat the Braves in Game 1 of the NLDS, and they look like they're well on their way to another tight series. But this series, Game 1 was a 4-1 victory for Philadelphia. This was a pretty straightforward game. Zach Wheeler, 6 2/3 scoreless innings on the mound, all you can ask for in a must-win playoff game. And a couple players had some RBI doubles, Castellanos and Alec Bohm. And then in Game 2, it was just a rout. But what people are going to remember this game for is Bryson Stott's heroic grand slam.
Yup.
His bat spiked through the earth. So Aaron Nola had a great start, 7 scoreless innings, but that's ultimately what people are going to remember this game for. And if Philadelphia advances far in the playoffs, they're going to look back at that moment right there as what started it all.
Personally, I wouldn't take that.
If there was a good wild card series, it was this one. At least there was like a lead change in this one. The Brewers actually led in both games. They had an early lead and then ultimately ended up choking it. But it was a tough series because they had the guys on the mound they wanted. They wanted this to be a low-scoring game and get carried by their pitching staff, which is how the Brewers win games. Corbin Burns in Game 1 gave up an absolute moonshot to Corbin Carroll that really kind of turned the tide for the series. And then in Game 2, Freddie Peralta did not have a great start. So that was a very disappointing series for Milwaukee. And now looking forward for them, they're probably going to have to hit the reset button on this franchise because they lost their president of baseball operations to the Mets, and a lot of people are speculating that their manager, Craig Counsell, could follow him because he's a free agent now at the end of, now because their season's over. So it might be some rough waters ahead for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Who is your most intriguing wild card matchup?
So I think the most intriguing wild card matchup to me is the Texas Rangers at the Tampa Bay Rays. So these two teams were arguably two of the best teams in baseball for the first half of the season. Their records were 1-2, and if you would ask people who were the best teams, they would have said the Rangers and Rays. But they kind of fell off a little bit as the season wore on, but they both picked it back up again. They're both in the playoffs, and they happen to be squaring off here in Tampa Bay. So as a team close to Orlando, I know a lot of people will be keyed into that one. So the big important thing for the Rays will be if they can utilize their home field advantage. The Rangers have one of the largest fan bases in the entire MLB, so hopefully they'll be able to keep some of those Rangers fans.
Yeah, and which team makes it out of the American League, in your opinion?
So I would just start with saying that the American League is absolutely loaded. I think in the NL, there's really only two teams that could come out of it. I think it's between the Braves and the Phillies. But the American League, honestly, just about every single one of these teams could make a run at the World Series. So for that reason, it was a little harder to pick the American League. But I think the team to beat that has been over the past 6 years, and that still is the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros are the class of the American League, possibly even the class of baseball, and they're so deep. There's really no holes in their lineup 1 through 9, except for maybe Martin Maldonado. He's a little bit of a lighter hitter.
I don't know about the class.
Because their rotation, their top 3, Verlander, Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier, that's as good as any in baseball, and that's a rotation, most importantly, that has extreme postseason experience. They won the World Series last year. They've made the World Series 4 out of the last 6 years. So there's really no reason to doubt either their starting rotation or their bullpen, which, again, the bullpen is probably the best in baseball. Their closer, Ryan Presley, is one of the best. Hector Neris has been on a tear lately, especially after he got up in Julio Rodriguez's face.
Yeah.
But he had some clutch outs in that division-clinching series against Arizona, some clutch outs. So there really is no holes in this team. Even their lineup, they have 2 MVPs in the same lineup, Jose Abreu and Jose Altuve. Then there's Jeremy Pena, who was the 2022 ALCS and World Series MVP as a rookie, as well as a Gold Glove winner. He's one of the best shortstops in the American League. A lot of people thought that the Astros were going to kind of decline after losing guys like Springer and Correa, but I bet Correa wishes he wasn't freezing in Minnesota right now. I bet he wishes he was still in Houston.
In a wild card.
So Kansas State's offense, the main thing with them is that loss against Missouri was very concerning. Yes, they scored 27 points, but Missouri is not a good football team. Missouri went 6-7 last year with a loss in the Gasparilla Bowl. So it's not like Missouri is the hallmark of SEC football. So Kansas State, when you look at their team, they are very reliant on Will Howard, the quarterback. And looking back to last year, they were very reliant on big plays. That's why they were so successful, and that's what earned them a berth in New Year's Six Bowl. But losing Deuce Vaughn, their now running back for the Dallas Cowboys, they lost a lot of those explosive plays. Their running game is not what it has been. Running back Trayshawn Ward now is the lead back. He's amassed 240 total yards, 2 touchdowns this year. But what's really hurting Kansas State, again, is those lack of big plays. So for UCF, the key is going to be like Missouri, what Missouri did. They kept 2 safeties deep pretty much the entire game, kept the ball in front of them, and made Kansas State beat them. In fact, all of their touchdown drives by Kansas State were drives of 10 plays or more. So clearly Missouri was very keen on watching those big plays and making Kansas State earn it. So I think that's also very key for UCF. Another thing is Kansas State likes to play action a lot, and their offense is very balanced. It's almost an even 50-50 split between run and pass. So UCF's defense is going to have to stay disciplined. They're going to have to stay in their gaps, make sure they don't overcommit to the run, and make sure, again, like Missouri did, make Kansas State beat you with long drives, because I don't think they can.